Hi, since we're not meeting tonight on October 14th, I've prepared this lecture, which we'd normally go over in class, and I just wanted to highlight some of the key information from this week's reading assignment about how web animation works. You might want to take notes on the information as I go through this, or you may want to, if you have a printed out version of this website information, highlight the points. But what I wanted to talk about first is that there are a number of different ways to create animation for the internet. And that includes animated GIFs, dynamic HTML, Java, Shockwave, and Flash. Now we're going to skip to the next section, which is the evolution of web animation. But what I really wanted to take a look at here is this is a Flash animation. And of course, we've been looking at lynda.com in the Flash animation course about how to create these types of documents, and we'll look more at that as we continue the course. But this is an example of the type of thing that you can create. And I note here, even though this is pretty complicated figure, it fits in less than 7,000 bytes, which if you read the bits and bytes information for tonight under course documents, you'll realize is a very good thing, since it lets you keep the file size down so that most people can view it fairly easily regardless of what type of internet connection they have. Okay, this next section looks more at animated GIFs. And really, animation is a series of still images shown in sequence so that it looks like it's moving. GIF animation is one way to do that, and it really is or was the first kind of animation to be used on the internet, and it's still really popular today. Or I shouldn't say it was the first kind to be used, but it was really the first kind of animation to catch on. An advantage of GIF animation is that it is really easy to work with, and it's recognizable in most web browsers, so you don't have to worry about somebody who has a different browser maybe not being able to see the animation that you've created. The disadvantage is that you do have to keep the animation pretty simple. So and like they say, it's an excellent way to illustrate a simple concept, but it isn't really adequate for more complex ideas like we're going to see with some of the other types of animation. So let's skip next to the dynamic HTML section. And we've talked about HTML before. It's basically just code that says or tells the computer where to display information on the screen and how. Like code would tell the computer to display this section that I'm moving the cursor over in bold compared to the rest, which is regular font, for example. So there's a code for bold. But we'll work more with that later on in the semester. So I want you to be aware there's also dynamic HTML. This is a script that tells the browser to keep changing the placement of an image on the page so it looks like it travels around the screen. Or basically a way of creating animation using a code. The plus is that, like GIF animation, HTML animation isn't automatically recognized by most web browsers. But a downside is that it's fairly limited in its applications, and it's also kind of difficult to learn how to use compared to other types of, or how to do the coding compared to learning other ways of animating. Next section looks at plugins. And these are good when instead of trying to change browsers, you want to have something that's just added in to a website so they work with your browser so that you can play a certain type of file. So for example, video, streaming video generally uses that plug-in type of approach. And there are different video player applications. Some of the most popular ones are QuickTime, Media Player, which you probably worked with or at least heard of. And by far the most common plugins for dealing with animation are Flash and Shockwave. These are both from Micromedia, and we're going to move into more of a discussion of those. Flash is really the standard format for rich or complex animation on the web, and Shockwave is a really popular format for presenting complex, as well, animated content. Flash has been particularly successful because it does come bundled with most browsers, and so it can create or transmit fluid animation very quickly. All right, we're going to skip to the next section that looks at the differences between Flash and Shockwave. And what I wanted to highlight here are the bulleted points. Flash and Shockwave have a number of contrasting strengths and weaknesses. And Flash files load more quickly than Shockwave, but Shockwave is more versatile. You can create things like games that are more complex, more elaborate interactivity, more detailed animation. You can use more types of files with Shockwave. So, for example, you can import a Flash file into a Shockwave movie, but it doesn't work the other way around. Flash is more universal. More than 90% of web users, as of the time this was written, have the Flash plugin installed. A little less than 60% have the Shockwave plugin. Flash creation software is cheaper. Well, it's not super cheap. It costs about $400, but it is less expensive. And down here is another Flash animation. This is a Flash movie. I'm not going to click on it, but if you haven't seen it already, I would recommend checking it out again, just to get a sense of what you can do with Flash and animation in general. Okay, our next section, creating Flash and Shockwave movies. Again, I'm just going to highlight the bulleted points, and they are that typically, again, what you're doing with animation is creating and editing individual images and arranging them, and once they're shown in a rapid order, they create a movie. So from something as simple as GIF all the way up to Flash, etc. That's the basic idea behind animation. And when we do some hands-on animation in class soon, you'll get more of a sense of how that process works. And here is another Flash animation. You can see it's got a number of different moving parts showing, illustrating how this engine works. The next section is the final section that we're going to look at, and this is very interesting. It discusses the future, what's going to happen with web animation, what's already happening. The next big thing is really 3D web graphics, and you may have already seen this on different websites. More and more sites are starting to use it. 3D graphics lets you access a 3D model, and you can control the display, so you can do things like turn the model around, activate certain functions. I wasn't able to get their link of the Champ car here to work, but we are going to check out another website to take a look at their some examples of 3D graphics. But 3D technology really has promising applications in the area of e-commerce, although you could also think of journalism and public relation applications and other communication applications as well. But this lets people feel a little bit more like they're actually in the store shopping, because if you're looking at just a still picture, obviously you can't see it from different angles like you can if you're looking at a product using 3D graphics. So they can create things like virtual dressing rooms. So let's go ahead and go to another link briefly, so you can see an example of 3D animation. And this is Turbo Squid. And they have just about everything you can think of here. So for example, cars. Let's take a look at cars. And let's check out about the Audi R18 2013. We click on that. We can see it from, again, different views. Imagine showing up to work in that every day. You can zoom in. And this is having a little bit of trouble zooming in, so I'm just going to go back out on that. But again, multi-angle, so you can check out different aspects. Let's go to another section. We can take a look at furnishings. Let's say we want to check out grills. Again, we can see the grill from different angles up close. You can see the thermometer on the top. Zoom in. And so again, just some examples of 3D animation. And then the final section just gives you some interesting links you might want to check out for more information. So for example, there's WebMonkey's animation section, more about Flash and Shockwave, and additional links. So hopefully you found this information helpful, and please definitely let me know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.